Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Proper Varian and this is Dev Diary number 123 for CK3. This one is Hashtag Looting for Glory and it is about everything tournament in tours and tournaments. We already learned about the tours and now we will know what is going on in the tournaments in the upcoming DLC for CK3. This Dev Diary, I'm quite confident, will be a shorter video than all the other last Dev Diaries because, well, those were really deep and sort of very involved mechanical implementations. I would argue the tournaments are more just the fun. It's just the activity. It is just something that really keeps you going. This is why this will probably be a bit shorter. We're going to see ourselves walk through a tournament and how to organize it, of course, and that is interesting, but it doesn't need as detailed an explanation and consideration as, for example, the vassal rework. Now, that being said, this is a Dev Diary that should be very important for you because in this Dev Diary you will probably learn how you feel about tournaments, and that is a big part of the upcoming DLC. And ultimately, I want to definitely see your opinions in the comments so that we can get to an understanding of how everybody feels about this new feature. This, of course, is something, and I swear to God, somebody said the other day, hey, I think you're thinking of tournaments in CK2's A Game of Thrones. I'm not. I swear, and I believe I'm correct, that CK2 had tournaments, they just sucked. You would organize a tournament, everybody would get wounded, and after the 50th person got wounded, you would be looking at a situation where you would just click, don't tell me about this anymore. That is a bad feature because it literally exists to be turned off because it just kind of sucks. That is what CK2 did here when it comes to tournaments. Let's hope that CK3 indeed did something much better. Hello everyone and welcome to Developer Diary number 123. We got Elizabeth, we got Nick, and we got John, also known as John. These three are going to be telling us today about this feature, so let's take a look. The commonly held concept of a medieval tournament is pretty straightforward. Knights in glittering armor, pennons streaming from their lances, a gallop, a tilt, a crash, and a victor saluting the crowd. It's an evocative image, but it is also quite narrow in its application. CK3 isn't just about a high medieval Western European knight on his charger. It's also about the Indian archer taking aim at a target, the Persian wrestler throwing his opponent to the floor, the steppe horseman thundering around a course. This is really important to me, and I can already tell you I'm really looking forward to the different actual bouts, to rather the different categories that you can challenge other people in a tournament in, because the tournament that we think of is a very narrow perception. They say it entirely correctly, and while they focus on the culture, for example, right? Obviously, you have different cultures that practice different competitions in what then is celebrated in a tournament. Tournaments, even in one region, are not the same in the year 800 compared to the year 1200. This is self-evident if we think about it, but at the same time when you play CK3, it's not like the game at any given point says, oh, this is the high medieval era, now the times have changed. But it's very important to understand when we play CK3, the tournament that we picture when we think about this obviously isn't the tournament that was happening in 867, much like, for example, feudalism in 867 wasn't the same as feudalism in 1200. The fact that this is the very cornerstone of the design philosophy here for the tournaments is definitely very important. In a tournament, the actual act of getting atop your charger and splintering a lance on the chest of an adversary might play second fiddle to wandering around and engaging with the great and the good who have come from all over the region to partake in your hospitality. This is actually the second pillar here when it comes to the design philosophy, and it's hugely important, right? Because the tournament in CK2 fundamentally suffered from the idea that all the tournament was the actual competition, and that competition wasn't exactly involved, that competition wasn't exactly interesting. In fact, it was just incredibly boring. You would click, oh, this is third, this is second, this is first. The fact that they now say, consider everything that comes with hosting a tournament, all the people traveling to your realm, all the people you might meet, and all the people that might do something for you is very important for me, because it might mean that I host a tournament even if I don't care to participate. More on that in just a second. A final relevant piece of this puzzle is exactly how you interact with the tournaments themselves. We've done contests between characters before through our single combat system and playing chess in Fate of Iberia. Those are quite tit for tit, locked-in engagements. You make your move, your opponent makes theirs. They are fun and engaging, but we didn't want to retread your steps with them by just making a bigger version of what we already have. So this is in particular for the actual contests in the sense of how they will work. We'll talk about how tournaments are laid out a bit later, but for now, let's take a look. There are a few unique aspects of the Grand Tournament activity type. First is that this is an open activity, meaning that you do not send invitations to this activity, but characters will instead decide for themselves if they want to come. I love this already. I gotta tell you, you have so few chances to interact with characters in this game that are in a different realm, that are of a different religion, that are of a different culture, that are not married or related to you. The fact that a tournament can really draw people in, I am a big fan. And I wonder, oh man, you know, now that I think about this, so you got a tour, and in that tour I assume it is less likely that your vassals that you visit will be at war because they gotta, or they want to be at home, I should say. But if you do a tournament, and all the counts and all the dukes in your realm travel to you, they probably will be marked as busy, right? On the travel, on the journey, and then in the activity itself. Meaning it might actually coincide with like a year of peace, right? Everybody travels there, then a very long, a very prosperous, a very glamorous tournament can ensue, and only then do they go home. So like a year and a half might pass, and your entire realm actually had this period of peace and just a bit of a different gameplay style. I like that actually. Everybody can come, and let's say, you know, you're in France, you're the king, the entire kingdom shows up, the Holy Roman Emperor shows up, and that means he might not have time to actually, you know, for example, fight the pagans. As a player, you will be able to choose to attend any tournament happening nearby, provided you can get there in time, and the same is true for any AI when you host a tournament. Another is that it makes use of the special activity locales. We're going to see those in a second. Let us see what being an open tournament means on the map. We are the king of Poland right here. This is the tournament hosted in Bohemia, and we can go there. This tournament pops up. It says, hey, I'm here. If you want to attend, then definitely just make sure that you click on me and then plan your travel. Duke Vratislav II hosting a grand tournament. King Bolesław II's point of view. Anyone can join an open activity, and you will be able to see them on the map with a big flashy banner, so it catches your attention. Man. Open activity. Sorry, I don't want to go too far on a tangent here, but that's an interesting concept. That might mean you could do something janky here. You could do something janky like if you are a candidate. Oh, that is, I want to see that. If you are, let's say you have a claim on a title, let's say you want to gather support, you could host this, and then it's an open invitation to attend for people that might support you. And then at the event you can, hey, if you're a modder, I think that sounds great. I would actually like that. This means you can gather support together instead of just being in a faction, instead of just using individual hooks. You can try to basically get people to swear fealty right in front of you, even if you're not king, because you are hosting an open activity. Quite interesting. Anyone can join this activity, and you will be able to see them on the map with a big flashy banner, right? If you actively want to participate in tournaments, there is this handy little toggle you can tick to be notified when there is one within range which you can travel to. This notification is enabled by default, right? Duke Vratislav's Grand Tournament. I like this icon a lot. You can join the tournament in Bolesław. In Bolesław? Oh yeah, what a coincidence. Right, and then this is the actual invitation. Invitation to Duke Vratislav's II Grand Tournament. To my vassal, I'm organizing a Grand Tournament in Bolesław. We will start with melee, a chance to show your skill to all I warrant. So we got, what is this? Is this a melee? Is this music? Is this a harp? Or is this like bow and arrow? It gotta be a harp, right? Is this like entertainment? And then we got jousting here, actually, and then, of course, the ending ceremony. If you're eligible, joining a tournament will offer a chance to win contests and therefore prizes, as well as relax and take in the sights and sounds. It also provides an opportunity for you to sharpen your martial skills. Man, this is really neat. I really like the idea of showing up and then you don't participate at all. You just talk to people. Your intent might be to persuade somebody, to get a marriage, to get a pact, to, I don't know, seduce somebody, all that sort of stuff. I am actually very interested in that from that angle rather than from the actual tournament's angle, but let's continue. Of course, you might not reach the tournament in time once one is hosted, so take care to make the appropriate travel arrangements to get there in time. If you come too late, you will be sent back home. That is a decision that they made. Obviously, you could show up late, but perfectly fine. Show up when you, or, only try to go when you can actually show up in time. The spice of life. In order to accurately represent the earlier mentioned huge variation in cultural sporting events, we chose a selection of 8 different events to tickle your fancy with tours and tournaments. Having this 8, melee, archery, recital, can't talk, board games, joust, wrestling, duel, and horse race. Wait a minute, what was the one that we were looking at there? It wasn't board game, It could have been a horse race? No, what is that? Oh, maybe it's just an interlude. There's just like, we're just hanging out. I'm not sure. Anyway, also allows us to open up exactly who can partake. Under standard game rules, it's not possible to have a woman participate in the joust, for example, but even the staunchest supporters of traditional gender roles would admit that a recital has no such issue. It also opens up options for specialists of a different kind. If you're not into physical shows of strength, you could even just organize what Rager affectionately likes to describe as a tournament for nerds, by setting up an event that only has a recital and board games. Why would I show up to that? Here we can see these different styles, right? These are related to the trait of the Hasteluder. You're going to see that in a bit. I love that trait. It's really cool. You can see we got melee, archery, recital, and joust. We're good at fighting. We're good at riding. And then right here we got wrestling. We're also pretty decent at that. And dueling, board game, and horse races. Yeah, okay. Board game and recital. It's like, that really is just for nerds. I assume that recital might be this one. They may have a recital. Who knows though? Anyway, there's also variation within the contests themselves. As you might expect from a rather diverse selection of sporting events, each contest falls into one of 4 formats: knockout, teams, turns, and race. As such, your path to victory will vary between each of these. A horse race is a very simple and rather short contest, for example, but a contest with rounds like duels or jousts has you facing multiple opponents in turn, a much longer form of spectacle. More on that later. This, if they cut the dev diary here, this is it. This is already so much more detailed, so much more engaged, and so much more true to life than CK2's implementation. It's unfair, mind you, because it's CK2, fair enough. But man, this is already a much, much better approach. You have many different people that can compete, many different competitions that are actually worth something, and then the implementation of the Hasteluder traits makes it so that you attending tournaments that have very particular competitions will be incredibly beneficial for you if you have the matching experience. Finally, there's also some changes as time goes on. Love to hear it. One of the things you as a community have asked for repeatedly is more delineation between early ages and late ones as the game progresses, and we've tried to reflect that in some small way in tournaments. You can see this right here. This is basically at the start date, right? Your selection goes here. This is the contest that you can add, and every other slot is just not open. You can unlock contest slots by progressing to the next era or as an effect from traditions. Very, very cool. This also being tied to traditions. Listen, I love to see it when content that is free, content that is paid, and then paid and paid content and paid and free content, when that stuff is connected, this is a good line to create right here. Later on, however, tournaments have evolved past being simply a way to train for bopping other folks in the head a bit more effectively and have become bona fide festivals. All people from all walks of life, the young and the old, the frail and the fit, the peasants and the upper crust, come to tournaments to take in the sights and the sounds. The prospect of high-quality sporting entertainment is just one attraction amongst the revelry, and the scale and cost of such an event swells accordingly. Huge fan of course, the costs actually going up here. We talked about the inflation of resources in CK3 in general in the last week's video. And I still think this holds true, but the more money dump we get that isn't just there as a money dump, but rather is an actual activity, the better, and this definitely falls right into this. Now, locations are important. You can see it right here, we can host it in different locations, and we already experienced this, or rather we saw this in the building overview. Building certain buildings will give you an advantage when actually hosting a tournament. It makes it cheaper, it makes certain events cheaper, and so on, and that is obviously huge if you don't have infinite money. I can recognize this here, for example. This person has infinite money, because 5,000 is what you get when you cheat with a console. Tournaments benefit from having infrastructure, that is to say, buildings to support them. Specific contests within a tournament will get cheaper by having already built supporting buildings within the barony that hosts it. This can substantially reduce the cost of a tournament within said barony, as the hosting barony will not have to construct said buildings before the tournament and tear them down afterwards. Want to host a joust or a horse race? Already having a jousting ground constructed within will cut the cost of hosting these contests in half. Other buildings can reduce the cost of hosting the tournament itself, such as the Royal Armory's Duchy building line, reducing the cost by 25%. Haha, I knew it. Okay, so this is a recital. You can see it right here. Vratislav was organizing a recital indeed. Here we can set the intent. Obviously, we're used to this. The champion you're going to learn about in a bit. If you don't want to compete, you can have your champion compete, and I'm a big fan of that for sure. Here we got the classic activity options, and then starting the tournament costs a whole 1,800. That is with 5 different contests. You pay 1,800 bucks. I think that is pretty solid. Honestly, in the endgame, you could make it even more expensive. Now, let's talk about actually planning this whole thing. Once we found our location, we can select the contests we want. As mentioned previously, we have 8 contests to choose from. Contests have differing costs to them. You can see this one is the late medieval era contest selection, so these are available, and then there seems to be even more. Obviously, at the very start, that is not going to be the case. A joust being a whole deal with a panoply of armor, particularly anti-horse, and a lance of indeterminately massive size is naturally more expensive to host than, say, a recital, as anyone who has ever gone to an open mic on a Friday night will sadly attest to. Here we can see that you have this tournament, you have this contest, and you can decide whether you want to spectate or whether you want to participate. If you participate, you will gain this experience, more experience, in a bit. I gotta tell you, I'm really excited for the experience changes because it impacts many more traits than just the tournament-related traits. It's going to be good, trust me. During the contest planning, you can also select whether or not you wish to compete in the contest with a simple toggle. You can toggle between these at any time, except when a contest is currently ongoing. Right, and then, after the tournament has been planned and paid for and you have traveled there, if you need to travel, we can actually participate. And this screen isn't new, we've seen this before. This is the tournament locale, and this is unique for CK3. If you've played browser games around 2008, then you will know this. Tribal Wars, or whatever that is called in English, Die Stämme, right? All of these other browser games, but also old school games, basically we're utilizing one of these type of screens, and that is exactly what we're getting here. Let's just take a quick look at what is going on here. This is in Amaya, which frankly, I'm not sure where that is. I assume in Iberia. We got a village here. We got a temple, a tavern, a tourney ground, artisan quarters, and tent camps. Then right here, we have an overview of who is qualifying for the next contest. If you are great at this, you know, sort of activity, whatever the contest is, then you will basically automatically qualify. Otherwise, you have to earn it, you have to train, you have to go to these locations and actually get things done. You can see we are great at fighting, great at shooting, great at horse riding, not so great at thinking and talking. Which then in turn, of course, means that we might actually not qualify. When you attend a grand tournament, you are met with what we call the locale view. This is a new way to experience certain activities unique to grand tournaments and stretches across the entire screen when you are interacting with content in the activity. I wonder how this will work for multiplayer. It sort of seems like a reversal of the policy they originally had, where they said, we don't want to have in-battle events because this might be bad if you're in multiplayer. How exactly are you going to do it, especially if they actually influence the battle that is running in the background because the event just opened during it, right? The locale view takes you away from the map entirely and seems to be really involved, right? With the information that you're getting here, with the activities that you're getting. This is a beautiful... I gotta tell you, though, I'm a stickler when it comes to the UI, but I like everything I see, but because even now I can tell which phase are we in, where are we going, are we participating? This is the participating icon. What skills do I have? What is my intent? Where can I go? It's obviously all grayed out, so you can't go anywhere. Am I qualified? I wonder whether this list is actually that important to know who is going to qualify. It's you know, if you have a tournament with like 300 people, then this will just tell you nothing. But the rest here, this is a good screen. You know, I gotta bring this up because I'm usually very negative when it comes to UX in general. In the downtime before and between contests, you have the option of interacting with the various locale buildings. So, what is the purpose of these buildings? Well, it depends on what you are in this particular, after in the particular tournament. The buildings each have a pool of unique events, as well as some shared ones, weighted based on the building in question and which intent you have selected. The short of it is, mechanically, you will choose what sort of events you want to pursue. One building type favors stress-reducing events, another favors improving your character's chances of winning the upcoming contest, and another can even give you knights to recruit. As you would imagine, staggering into the tavern is eminently more likely to trigger the likes of a game of dice or even a drunken brawl than a church is, unless you've been to significantly more lit religious ceremonies than I'm used to. For the tournament, we have selected to have the following buildings available. Right, we've seen them above. There's a certain cooldown to interacting with a specific building and a cooldown to interacting with the locales in general, but you can pick and choose which building you wish to interact with. This also means if you arrive early, you have the time to interact with more buildings, giving you an advantage over your competitors. Furthermore, if you do not pick a locale to interact with, one of the locales will be automatically picked for you, weighted by your intent, so you don't have to have the APM of a competitive RTS player to stay on top of the locales. This really, it's kind of weird, right? So, the way this sounds to me is that you're going to be in the screen, you're going to wait until the cooldown goes away, then you click it, and then you get the event, right? Are you expected to, essentially, when you are at a tournament, to be in the screen the entire time? Because that's a big commitment, especially in multiplayer, obviously. I wonder whether you can get notifications. I don't see any, I don't even see the current situation rider here, right? I wonder whether you can see events that pop up as you are on the screen. I wonder whether being in this screen keeps events from popping up, and whether the AI knows you're in that screen and isn't, for example, going to attack you, make you any offers that would go away if you stay too much in the screen. Those are my worries, because I don't want this to be one of those screens where my attention goes, oh, wait a minute, I can't be here for too long because there might be something important happening outside. That aside, though, I like the idea that I basically show up here. I set an intent. Let's hope that I can, like, do a seduction intent. I set that intent, and I would like to go to a temple, and I would love it if in the temple there's a certain pool of seduction events that I can pick. If I go to the village, there's a certain different pool of seduction events. I would like that a whole lot, because I think that would mix this up compared to any other grand activity. We have talked in the past about, for example, tours. Obviously, you have intents there as well, but where you are and what kind of events you can be getting is always predetermined by the activity itself. In this activity, it's different, it's more nuanced, and that is what makes it so fun, right? Or rather, what makes the idea of it fun, I should say. We're looking at a situation where the same intent in different locations might lead to different events. The biggest worry, and for me this is more threatening not in this locale, but in the actual contests, the biggest worry that you ought to have with this type of content is when will you have seen all events, right? Because the big issue that Royal Court faced, that so many of CK2's DLCs, but also of course CK3 in many different variations face, that Victoria 3 for example faces as well, is at some point you've seen all the content. Right here, this seemed varied enough, right? We have the intent, we have whether you participate, whether you're not participating, whether you're qualified, whether you're not qualified, and then of course you have who is actually attending and how that impacts things. I can only hope that there's a really big variety here. That plays a big role, I think, ultimately, when it comes to the long-term enjoyment of tournaments, because once I've seen all events, I won't necessarily go back unless, you know, there's enough variety as is. Furthermore, if you do not pick a locale to interact with right, then you will just be given one. A quick bout. I am playing as Grand Prince Vyacheslav II of Polotsk, so now we're going to walk ourselves through organizing a tournament of Polotsk, and I have a bit too much gold burning a hole in my pocket. What better thing to spend it on than a pointless flex of martial ability? So we're going to host a tournament. Our accommodations are awful, certain negative events are more likely to fire. I like that, actually. I like that. That makes it worth doing very little, right? Like, paying less money is good because there could be interesting negative events. Cool. And prize artifacts, however, we're paying the maximum here, will be of very high quality, magnificent prizes. If this is 1066, and I believe it is because the Grand Princes are in 1066, not 867, 180 bucks for the highest here for a Duke sounds good. I hope that this differs obviously for King and Empire. Interesting. I pick from my setup options. Ramshackle 10s will do just fine for my visitors, but the prizes, now those need to be glorious. I'm going to win after all. A quick interlude here to explain contest formats. We partake in an archery contest, which is rather straightforward. A group of people compete against each other, and then once that phase is over, one of them wins. This is also seen in horse racing and also recital. It isn't quite as simple with some others, however. A contest like a duel or a joust has competitors progressing through a knockout format, whittling their numbers down slowly until one finally triumphs from the final two. The same is true for wrestling and board games. The final and most unique setup involves the melee, often thought to be preeminent example of medieval European tourneying until the advent of jousting. Melee involved a mock battle between two teams of participants. Chaotic, huge and dangerous, melees often covered large distances and had indeterminate victory conditions. In-game, this involves you being sorted into a team with your collective score being tied in with your teammates. Right, so we got these different categories. Man, I have to applaud the base idea of this. I want to really point this out, it has to be said, if the content is repetitive, then all of this can fall out, right? Like, it can fall down like a house of cards. But the idea that I can go to a tournament and I say, you know what, I've had so many recitals, I'm not participating in this nonsense. Boom, I spectate this. But the melee, now I want to participate in this, so I go in there. You can essentially opt in and opt out of content that you want to see based on who your character is and based on how tired you are of a certain set of content. That is, yet again, I didn't think about it this way, but this to me is another lesson learned from Royal Court. If you opt into Royal Court, into holding court, right, you don't have a choice what kind of events you're opting in, opting out. If you could differentiate this, say, hey, I will only see my direct vassals. Hey, I will only see the common plebs. Hey, I will only see the church, you know, that sort of stuff. I think Royal Court would actually have a better reception. Man, phases to holding court, I mean, come on. That would be much, much better. We now have grand tours, and they have phases, they have all this thing, you visit your individual vassals, the experience differs depending on the setting, the intent, and the actual, whether it's a banquet or whatever. Tournaments have these different stages people can attend. And holding court is like, here 3 events. Ooh, this really has learned the lessons. I hope that Royal Court eventually also learns the lessons itself. Now, first hurdles. Right, this is the qualification. We know we saw it earlier. The very first challenge I have to pass is being considered worthy enough to actually participate. Tournaments in bigger realms can have over 100 people attending, so the wheat needs to be separated from the chaff. Somewhat insultingly, my pathetic prowess and complete lack of existing martial practice have left my qualification very much in doubt. If you squint a bit, you might be able to see the tiny sliver of bar that has been filled up. I believe you. There it is. The first order of business is to pump those numbers up. Right, a glorious guest. A glorious fanfare rends the air. Trotting past me, a horse-born herald unrolls a parchment. Hear ye, hear ye. Upon this finest of days, we are blessed with the presence of a true virtuoso. He has vanquished all comers from Ireland to Cathay. It is my honor and privilege to introduce the most skilled, the most splendorous, the best in the world, Simeon. I love that it's just like, it's just a guy. It's not like, High King Simeon of the cruel wilds. No, it's just Simeon. A figure bursts past the herald, skidding his horse to a standstill, a breaking ray of sunshine illuminating him like a halo. The massed crowds roar, almost shaking the ground. There he is. He does look incredibly, incredibly powerful. Combined diplomacy and learning challenge. Ooh, right, we're going to talk about this later as well here. What a treat it is to have you here, Simeon. Perhaps they could teach me a thing or two, or sorry, who. If we do this, our score for qualification, if we were to succeed, which we are unlikely because this guy's an expert, would be better afterwards. So this is basically, you go to these locales, you go to these events, this appears to be in the village, right? And then you will get the chance to improve your qualification score so that you can actually participate to begin with. I wander into the tournament grounds, and who should I... it's the tournament grounds. And who should I find but a famed tourney knight? Simeon might be a little portly, but his ability is undoubted. Perhaps he can teach me a thing or two. Your score decreases slightly. Drat. Yeah, unlucky. With time running out, I dive into the artisans' quarters. I come across Yelisei, the local boyar. As a side note, all tournaments have a set of local artisans and religious figures that ply their trade at said tournament for the entire duration of the event. And lo and behold, he happens to have a little something for sale. This, I really hope... I wonder what they mean when they say the religious figure. I really hope that this, if you're like in an area that has a lot of pagans, a lot of Muslims, that this also lets you interact with other faiths/cultures, which then would make each tournament, based on its location, more interesting. Man, Royal Court, I really, please, put this stuff in there. That sounds great for the Royal Court. Rifling through the sheaves of arrows and piled bowstrings, I come upon a neat stack, particularly fine leather vambraces. Sliding on one onto my forearm, the stiffened hide protects the inside of my arm. They are finest braces, my lord. 10,000 lashes of the bowstring won't wear through these. Yelisei senses a potential sale, and he slides over swiftly to my side. I test the leather inquisitively, weighing it up in my hand. We pay money, we get a better score, and fine bracer I'm sure gives us some type of bonus. As guests pour in, the qualification adjusts itself. If I would have been a noted archer, for example, it's possible that I would have qualified right off the bat without having to do anything, leaving me free to wander the nearby village or relax at the tavern. I wonder whether, like... You know, because, like, what if you, like, spend all your time trying to improve your score and then it's not enough? That kind of sucks, right? Like that's gonna feel real bad. But fundamentally here, this is definitely very interesting. This means even if you don't participate, the people that are coming, they're all doing something so that they can push up their score. Okay, I'm gonna do this for the last time today, but I'm just saying, if we held court and the people attending this event would basically compete with one another for our attention, to actually bring their petition to us. Let's say I want my liege to build a castle, right? But I need to actually be important enough. I need to have the ear of the council of the king of the other vassals, and then I can petition the king. Otherwise, it might just be like, you know, let's talk about this later. That would be great, right? Again, zipping my mouth when it comes to this topic. This is the last time I will mention this, okay? I'm just saying it would be pretty cool. Right, in this case, however, my lack of ability is masked, at least somewhat, by the correspondingly rubbish competition. As such, it only takes this edition of my bracer, along with a quick trip to the tavern to put a tab on for my competitors, to have me well in control of my destiny. That's interesting. So if you have a tournament that is occurring in a location that has super, super strong knights, you might never qualify if you're bad. If it's like here in, you know, just Russia in the middle of nowhere, it would be in a position where you can definitely get it done, right? Interesting. A great roar of laughter booms from the corner where Count Kirill, Prince of Vesevolod's vassal, sits. He is surrounded by a group of friends and new acquaintances, other entrants in the upcoming archery contest, all indulging in wine as they trade stories. As you pass, you can't help but consider encouraging this little session. Right, the tables tab is on me, your score increases moderately, and they all get their score decreased. Oh, that is so cool. I really like these new mantles there. Never again, right? They get all a wicked hangover, and that lets us qualify right here. That is pretty cool. Okay, that's pretty neat. Now, look at that. We are on the verge of qualifying. The adjudicators allow us in, and up opens the contest window. So this is what appears to open, and it seems to be changing. Look at this, right? So this is still the very same event, but the background seems to change with whatever event is fired in the actual event, right? And then here we are back at the archery. Right. This is the screen right here. But let's take a look at the actual event content right here. Archery contest begins. The very crowd of contestants mill about the butts, comparing bows and trading tales of their finest shots. The creak of bows and twang of strings carry far, punctuating the hubbub, a smell of resin wafting through the still air. My ears prick up as my name is mentioned, drifting across the gentle breeze. That could be a good sign or a bad one. It's time to show the world my skill, or I have a bet to place. Oh, are we betting on ourselves? Place a gold wager on the archery contest winner. I think we might be placing a bet on ourselves here, right? That's interesting. We got 8 contestants right here. You can see that we are very mediocre when it comes to shooting, but we do have a skill point. Fair enough. Pretty, isn't it? Not content with throwing away enough gold to bury the average family, I decide to have a little wager. And who else to bet on but the best? Ah, okay, I see. So you click this, you can bet on yourself, and then you can actually participate. I even find the time to, in accordance with my intent to win the tournament, attempt a little skullduggery. So this event is firing during a contest because we have a specific intent, which implies that during a contest, if we, for example, want to seduce one of the other contestants, there might be a different event popping up in this phase. Interesting. I thought these events would only be reserved for the locale, so this is actually nice to see. Archery, sabotage. I vowed to myself I would win a contest in this tournament, and I can't help but consider a less fair approach to securing the prize of the archery competition. I'm sure my opponents would do the same. If they only had the idea, who knows, maybe they already have. Right, we can, whoever we think is the best one, we can try to go against them here. Interesting. I sought to sabotage Count Oftai's bow before the archery continues, subtly changing the pull of the string to throw him off. My patience finally paid off. I make the switch without arousing suspicion and made off into the night. Into night. Come morning, I'm relieved to find there is not a whisper of my machinations. Okay, so this worked out, meaning I assume that his success chance is lowered, which I assume in turn means our success chance can, in the very same vein, be lowered as well. I won't take you through every happening, but suffice to say, a bystander got hit with an arrow and I rather failed my attempt to liven things up with a particularly outlandish attempt. Whether those two things are related, I suppose nobody will ever know. He shot a person. At the sharp end of the contest, it has already come down to it. I'm doing rather well, but at a given point in a contest, an event called a pivotal moment will trigger. This is a very straightforward, very simple event. You will have the opportunity to improve your score, but you must beware, for we have one small new mechanical addition to the game that is worth mentioning here. Previously, if a scripter wanted to perform a skill duel, as in comparing a skill like prowess or martial against another character's corresponding skill or set value, we can only perform it against another single skill. Now, thanks to the quick work of our Coda Juror, we can duel multiple skills against each other. This means gone are the days where it's just martial, where it's just diplomacy, where it's just learning, or where it's martial against learning, martial against intrigue. Now, multiple skills can be involved here, which obviously is excellent because all these tournament modes are all very diverse and should require different skills, and that is exactly what is happening right here. This is a combined prowess and intrigue challenge if we want it to be. For example, during a recital, you might attempt to combine your usual diplomacy with a little intrigue, or opt for your experience in battle with a rousing martial-led verse. Here, I'm not really good at anything, so I try to maintain my advantage by just using a single skill test. The rest here are multi-skill indeed. Striking true. Can we see this is a... Can we see that this is a pivotal event somewhere? I don't think it's noted here. The event earlier here with the intent, it's very clearly declared right here. Here, I'm not so sure. Dusk begins to draw in slowly but steadily as the competition continues. The snapping of strings, a staccato rhythm. I lean on my bow, considering the path this contest has taken so far, such as when I decided the contest needed a little livening up. The competition begins to draw to a close as arrows continue to fly into and past the butts. If I'm to make any impact on proceeds from here, I must act now. That sounds very much like the final wording anyway. Then we have this, okay, there you go. We must have hit it, at the very least. Arrow, black arrow. I've saved you to the last. Arrow target hit. Well, I mean, it could be worse. I could have missed the target entirely. Highly strung. My shot flies true, but agonizingly not quite as true as I would want it to. It thuds into the target, but only around the edge. It's not going to do me any harm, but it probably won't do me much credit either. I'm winning. Victory is so close. This is like the I assume this is basically like the duels and the chess playing, where down here the last paragraph always explains to you whether you're winning, losing, whether you're in the competition, or whether you're completely destroyed. Only a few more arrows are remaining for each competitor. The end is at hand. Right, I was already amongst the frontrunners, so frankly, maintaining my lead is a fairly good outcome. The last few competitors take their shot and... contest winner. Trumpets sound, the crowd clamors, competitors begin to assemble. The contest is over, and someone's limelight is being readied. A herald steps forward, voice booming out across the scene. After many trials, some tribulations, and above all else some truly spirited competition, we have our final three. In third place, the gutsy chieftain Kolomusa, coming in a close second, Count Gavril. That, of course, leaves us with our winner, Grand Prince Vzeslav, which is us. I knew I could win. I have proven my worthiness beyond doubt, and that is how you win. I hope, okay, I think the locale events sound great to me. I really hope that the events during the contest are varied enough. This is my personal biggest worry. I'm saying this largely because in the locale, there are so many different locations that you can pick. So many different potential people that can pop up that even seeing the same event, it might make sense if that doesn't matter because it's still varied enough. In the tournament, in the actual contest, how different can it be? What else are you sabotaging if not the bowstring of your opponent, right? I really hope that this is varied enough. This is where I would place my worry when it comes to this. So far, at the very least, it seems quite okay. The sun comes down on the final day of the tournament, and the massed crowds begin to disperse. I find myself ruminating over the results. I had the finest aim of any in the archery. I fulfilled my goal of winning a contest. The happy crowds passed me by as they went their way home. I'm looking forward to the next tournament already. And then here we get the conclusion screen. Vyacheslav is the archery winner, that is us. We gain prestige, money, and merry aim, and then of course, since we hosted this, we also gain prestige and lose stress, and we have become the owner of the prize ring. That is indeed the artifact that we got. Merry aim here is the modifier. This character's unerring aim saw them win an archery contest at a tournament. Injury resistance, archer damage, and has to loot a trait experience gain. This is not a bad trait, not a bad modifier for sure. It's worth saying at this point that rewards scale rather heavily by the scale of your tournament, and thus are also likely tied to what area you're in. Love to hear it. If you organize a gigantic late game tournament with 5 contests, the prestige rewards can easily scale into the thousands, and even more juicy rewards like dynasty renown may become available. Let's hope that this is balanced. I know this has been a theme here on the channel as well. I look at the numbers and I'm like, oh god, that seems like a very large number. This might be a very large number. Let's hope it isn't. Like, it's not too big. Anyway, of course, this experience is only relevant if you're actually participating in a tournament. If you're not a martial gender, things play out somewhat differently. Tournaments are inherently less directly interactive if you're not partaking, though, as mentioned, there will generally be at least some options to participate given the ubiquity of the likes of recitals and board games. And so, naturally less attractive to a non-martial gender ruler, but we wanted to give players at least an opportunity to host them and reap the rewards. Yeah, as a spectator, you will be able to wander the grounds with no interest in attempting to improve your score, letting you gain some neat rewards. You may not always be in a position to participate in your contests, be it due to being of a non-martial gender, injury, or any other reason. We still want you to be able to amass the rewards of attending or hosting a tournament. If you want to still take something of an interest, though, you can appoint a personal champion for the duration of the tournament as your own personal stand-in. Any reward the personal champion is handed, their liege takes a major cut-off. They are competing on your behalf, after all. If you can, you may still elect to participate in the contest while your personal champion is competing, at which you'll have more chances to get rewards. It is good to be the liege. Be the emperor, have a personal champion, also participate, make infinite money. Okay, that's how you do this. We got a melee, we got a recital, there you go, and we can indeed name a personal champion right here. This is the fellow Prince Sven Svensson of Denmark is our personal champion, which qualifies him to be the champion in this tournament. As the liege, you're also able to command the knights attending your tournament to a certain extent. I love this. This is actually my favorite part about this. If the events suck, okay, if I personally, who knows, go and say, you know what, I've seen this 1,000 times, I'm tired of this, I can use this as a massive opportunity for my knights to learn, to train, to become stronger, to become better. Now I'm a big fan of this. This is really cool. The ability to basically bring your actual sort of entourage and then say, you know what, you all have to participate. You all have to do something here. We better win this as a kingdom, right? The top 3 spots, they gotta be all ours. I definitely want to see this. You can designate them to participate in upcoming contests if they're able to, or force them to sit on the sidelines. You still get rewards when your knights perform well in the contests, but if they are particularly good and you are eyeing that top spot for yourself, you might just ease your personal competition. It is a trade-off you have to choose between. Right, are they gonna... that is quite interesting. I like that a lot. There's also quite a few other facets regarding knights and tournaments, and indeed in general, but we won't go over them much here. Keep your eyes peeled for info on that in the future. We will. Now, I will tell you, we're going to skip the next part here. This is a cool part. I really appreciate this. They basically explain what they did and how they decided to create this tournament ground. These are the first drafts, of course. Then here we see the motivation, the sort of inspiration of this whole thing. I love this so much. Everybody loved locale scenes, for sure. Everybody loved locale scenes in browser games and in early video games. It was easy to do, it looked cool, really neat. You can see right here there are some extra details added as they go, and these are then inserted together with smoke effects, for example, into the actual environment. If we go take a look at this here, you can see this environment is actually empty. You can insert something here, you can put something in there, you can have an event here that isn't a tournament, be it you're hosting, for example, a getaway with your vassals, be it you have a beach episode. You could do a lot of things. You could do a negotiation with a different ruler, you could host that big activity to say, hey, I'm the King of France, you're the King of England, and I would like to negotiate a lasting alliance between our families. There are so many things that can be done here, and technically, obviously the actual events aren't designed around this, but technically any activity could be done like that. Man, you know, I gotta, yeah, no, I will admit, it does feel sad that, man, I want to see pilgrimages like this, where I arrive in Jerusalem, and then I can interact with the different buildings, other pilgrims show up, other people that live there, the leaders of the realm, or people that are responsible in this locale, you know, in the name of the leaders of that realm are there. That would be so cool. I actually like this a whole lot. I don't know whether it's always necessary, but since we are now using this, I really wonder how it's integrated in multiplayer and whether we can use that lesson for other content that was previously rejected for multiplayer, such as in-battle events. This is all about modding. Don't worry about the details here. That's fine. We are now talking about tiered traits. Tiered traits used to be a little bit confusing to the player and even to the developer. Tiered traits essentially had a chance of leveling up each time they nudged up against the next level, and the result was tiered traits feeling occasionally unsatisfying to use and clunky to build mechanics around. I did not care about them because you do not know when you become a better hunter, etc., etc. It's entirely random. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That time is over. With this in mind, we redesigned it conceptually, using what has now become the Has-to-Looter trait as a template, and our venerable Black Ninja set about rebuilding it from the ground up. Now, rather than progress XP being hidden, it is visible on the trait itself. Rather than having a chance to level up, the progress is linear. If you are on 29 XP, the threshold to get to level 2 is 30, and you gain 2 more XP, you are now at level 2. No muss, no fuss. And this produces something like this. This is the full Has-to-Looter trait, where you have all the benefits, where you have succeeded everything, and you have filled all of these tracks. Because, behold this trait has multiple experience tracks. That's right, we can do that now. We can do so much going forward with that. Really looking forward to what modders do with this as well. But, man, this is a great feature. And you can see, if you were to fill up this trait and all of its tracks, yeah, this is a crazy set of bonuses. But if you do participate in enough contests to actually get this, then, well, fair game, right? That makes perfect sense to me. Foot, bow, horse, and wit. Originally concepted as a pure tournament participation trait, it has evolved a little over time to represent all sorts of martial practice, from hunting to turning to mock duels. These tracks correspond to the 4 trait experience types we use when determining how skilled a participant is in a particular contest type. You saw that above as well. The tiers here are not the sole factor when determining a character's aptitude, but they heavily influence it. These trait tracks can also affect other activities, and you can even gather XP for it by winning duels or even, on occasion, doing something as mundane as traveling. But you primarily accrue Has-to-Looter trait experience by participating in tournaments. These are the individual levels. I gotta tell you, these bonuses are nice. I think it really encourages participating in these contests. It probably makes it so that even if you're not participating, you still want to go there so that you can make your personal champion and your knights actually participate, because, man, this is a good set of bonuses. Imagine every single knight you have, look at that, having more prowess all around. Every single knight having a health boost, right? Surviving some sort of battle. Every single knight being in a position where they get more prestige, which then, well, does nothing for you, I guess. But hey, you know, if you are in this position, obviously, if you have these, then that is great for you. These are really good traits They're interesting to get. They're clear in when you will get them. All around, I will tell you the Hasteluder trait, the Hasteluder progress track, and everything that is now involved in tiered traits. That whole thing is my personal highlight for this dev diary. The tournaments, they're neat, they look cool, but this stuff right here, I have so much in terms of ideas. In how you can push this further, in what influences it. This is some really cool stuff. The trick here is that these effects stack. Not only do they stack within themselves, they also stack with each other. In other words, if you have level 1 in wit and level 1 in horse, you're getting both that plus of 5% prestige and also the +1 to diplomacy. It is extremely unlikely that you will get all tracks leveled to this point. If you do, then you will no doubt have spent the vast majority of your life turning and vanquishing all comers. A feat that frankly deserves such a rich reward. For context, that tournament I played earlier was Vezislav, in which I won the whole contest, only got him close to level 1 of bow. It's very rare, right? So he had one tournament, he didn't even reach level 1. However, as I was writing this, we did manage to come across one such specimen in an observer game in 1250. This is so vanishingly rare, in fact, that he was the only one alive in that save who had a maxed Hasteluder trait. Meet Count Martin the Shy, the irony is not lost on us. I like this armor. This is good armor. I like this guy, okay? I feel weird about the regent being here. I still think I would prefer it here, like in one of these boxes. What do you think there? They're already technically here. This is the same guy. Cool outfit, by the way. He's participating in a tournament. He's doing nothing else. You gotta love it. I mean, that is dedication right here. You can see the Hasteluder trait, of course, with the different tracks, but the icon actually also changes based on where you have experience in which track, and then they mix individually as they see fit. This is with all of them, is obviously what he has right here. But if you're only good at riding, if you're only good at, firing your bow, if you letting loose your bow, I should say, then you will only have this, and you would only have this right there in your combined image. That's pretty cool, that's pretty neat. The rest here, I believe it might be everything. Yep, this is all just like early development stuff, which is really cool, but I would like to skip over this because these videos are long enough as is, and I would like to take a moment to consider tournaments right now. This is a major feature. I personally like the locale choice a lot. I am really curious, I'm insanely curious how native it will feel and how disruptive the on-map activity can actually be if you are in this screen, right? Is there anything that will rip me out of the tournament and say you need to respond to this and that, and then I'm on the map, I need to go in there individually? Because if so, that would kind of suck. Even so, this is a nice step into a direction where you really are moving with your character. Instead of saying, oh, we can't do this because for multiplayer, etc., this is a different approach, and I love it. I think tournaments look really promising. I am worried when it comes to the variety of events, but that is something I think when it comes, to the experience that we have with grand strategy games. If you play them for long enough, then you will see every event and then memorize them. That is a given. This will always happen. The core idea of having the different contests, which then makes the tournaments feel different, having different participants, having a different qualification threshold, having a personal champion, having a knight participate, these changes, at the very least, make me very much convinced that the devs are absolutely aware that repetition is a massive issue and are trying to address it this way. What I really love, though, is the fact that you can bring your knights, that you can bring your personal champion, that you can actually earn major benefits from the tournaments, that your buildings influence the tournaments, and then, of course, last but not least, that the track of the tier traits is now visible, works linearly, and can be implemented with a multi-track system. Obviously, it's also cool that you can challenge multiple skills in one skill check, but be that as it may. I like all that stuff. This is one of the first dev diaries, though, where it definitely makes me think, man, the potential here, right? The potential of the locale, the potential of what it could mean for, like, holding court, for meeting other people, for... I don't know. I want to see this spread further because the principle here is really cool. What do you think about tournaments? Let me know in the comments. These are Elizabeth, John, and Nick. I love these illustrations so much. They look really neat. We're looking forward to the next dev diary, which will be, I believe, about grand weddings and feasts. Let's learn a bit about that next week. For the time being, this is it right here. Definitely let me know what you think, whether you share my concerns, whether you think there were more concerns that I didn't know, that I didn't cover, or whether you think that the stuff that I like is indeed quite good. With that being said, I'll leave you right here. Later, alligator.